Howdy, partner.
That's my line.
This town ain't big enough for the both of us.
This town needs an enema.
This town needs some cholera.
What's the matter, you yella? No, I have jaundice. Jaundice.
Gondis.
Mahatma
Mahatma
Gondis.
Gondis. Haters will say that was planned. We're back, motherfucker.
We're back.
Where do we go?
I don't know. It's like I started singing the Eminem song, but I don't want to get a strike on YouTube.
Yeah, well, we're not on YouTube, so that would help.
Oh, that's right.
Yet.
We're not anywhere.
Tease for the future. Maybe. Where the hell did we go?
We were on vacation.
Yeah.
Seemed like you had something important to do, and that's the reason why we took off, right?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay.
I think it was just you.
Well, I was dead for a while.
Were you Red Dead?
Was that it? Is that why we stopped? Because we were playing video games? That sounds
pretty much. That's why we stopped, because we were playing video games. We were doing research, Garrett. Not for this episode, but for some other one that we haven't done yet.
Wow, we must be really slow.
Well, school came around, and you know why I went back there. And Garrett's too old to go back, so he didn't.
Yeah. They won't let me even in the building.
So while I was hitting up more awful university courses, as you do, and Red Dead, we decided to take a little short season break of the digital drive-in. But hey, we're hip, we're happening, and we're back in the snapping here with an all-new episode where we talk about our favorite movies and why we love them. And
looking for all the white women.
And looking for all the white women because, Garrett, what white women-oriented movie did we watch today?
Blazing Saddles. And we didn't watch it today.
I watched it. Not today either. Yeah, you're right.
You trying to lie to our listeners, man?
Absolutely.
Okay.
What is Blazing Saddles? I've never heard of it. Where am I?
It's a country western movie where everyone's mode of transportation is on fire.
Yep.
Did we die? Okay. That was really good.
It's Blazing Saddles, the classic the Mel Brooks movie. 1974 Mel Brooks movie, which is a western. Because keeping it the theme of last episode and also Red Dead Redemption 2, and also this movie's pretty funny, we decided to do it. Mm-hmm. Now, I believe this was your choice for the drive-in, Garrett. Why'd you pick it? You little shit.
Was it my choice?
Yeah.
It's a comedy. It's a classic. It's Mel Brooks. I like parody movies too. I like something that takes like the idea or the concept of something that's been kind of run into the ground, especially at this point in Hollywood. Westerns were becoming less and less popular. So something that takes it and like reinvigorates the genre, re-energizes it, deconstructs it, and makes fun of it as well as embracing the strong points.
So why'd you pick this? That's none of those things.
Because I wanted to watch the opposite of those things I just said.
Yeah, exactly. No, but of course, this is a classic movie that many deem to be racist nowadays, which is kind of weird because it didn't come out nowadays. It came out back then. And it also wasn't racist back then, was it?
Oh, no, I think it was overtly racist, and that was what was funny, is because they were playing up to that.
I mean, not in like a hateful way or anything.
Right. I mean, it wasn't like Mel Brooks was saying, "Hey, we should encourage racism." He's like, "You see how stupid these villains are that are acting this way? This is how stupid you are if you're a racist."
Yeah, that's essentially the point of this movie, is that it's just look at how stupid racism is in general. And it's set in the time of yeehaws. Makes it better.
Well, that's the thing, is being able, I mean, it's like, okay, Star Trek would do that, and this is the early point in the thing where Garrett talks about Star Trek. Star Trek would take a subject, or even science fiction in general, we could even say, would take a subject that would be difficult to talk about now, but you could put it in space somewhere where a planet is having issues, where one guy is painted blue and the other guy is painted pink, and the blues and the pinks are having issues with each other.
I hate the
And you
fucking blues.
don't
God
you?
damn it, those
Gives me
fucking
the blues.
blues.
But boy, in the pink, that's where it is.
Yeah.
So
Ew.
what? You'd rather the stink?
Not 2 in one, one on the other. Right?
That makes sense. With you, I guess.
That's getting cut.
The fact that you could bring up things and allow people to see it from a secondary point of view without necessarily putting themselves into that position, I think that's a very good way to be able to bring about points and to make issues relevant. And so setting it at a time when overt slavery was going on and overt racism was going on, even more so than in the 70s, you could do a lot of these things and do it so over the top to really bring home the point.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that they did that.
It's a very good satire of not only the current world state, I guess, in 1974, where obviously racism was still a little bit prevalent, and some would say still is to this day, which, honestly, this movie is still a little relevant to this day too.
Mm-hmm.
But it being, a critique on the era that it was set in, and on the movies of the past, like you were talking about as well, which had sort of issues with race, all the old westerns and such. And its portrayal of certain ethnicities. Something Mel Brooks is very famous for in his movies, obviously, is his writing and the acting that supplements it. What do you think? Thoughts? Writing? Words?
I like writing. Writing is good. No, I mean, Mel Brooks didn't write it with himself. There were like 4 other screenwriters, I think, Richard Pryor being one of them.
Yeah, Richard Pryor was one that surprised me. I didn't know that he wrote this one
Yeah,
for a while.
And originally he was supposed to be in the film, but
he was supposed to be in the lead, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was supposed to be Bart, and from what I understand is one day he was expected on set, and they get a phone call, and he says, "I'm in Cleveland, and I don't know why." So he was having drug issues, and they decided to just go ahead and move on without him because he was going to be unreliable. And it's interesting too because Gene Wilder's character was originally supposed to be somebody else, and then he had to be brought in the last minute.
Now, who is he supposed to be played by? I forget that.
I don't remember the guy's name. He was a guy that was like in movies and television before.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Mel Brooks, I think, wanted him to be a little older, and so he was an older actor. And this actor was steadily influenced by alcohol and couldn't remember his lines. And so after the first day, they're like, "No, you're out of here." I think he couldn't even stand on set.
Jeez.
So, yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, Gene Wilder's character is sitting a lot anyway throughout the film, so maybe that was a little poke at that.
Could be.
Who knows? But I think that Clevon Little did a really good job as Bart for somebody that wasn't supposed to be in the film. With Richard Pryor supposed to be in that role, I really think Little nails the hell out of it and has all that charisma and that swagger to go along with the character of Bart.
Yeah, and I think he was originally like a stage actor, and I think a lot of that really comes through. Like his physical comedy and his body language is like solid,
right?
And a lot of that comes through with Mel Brooks. Very much so isn't a cinematographer. He'll just kind of like set the camera up and let the people do what they have to do.
Yeah,
and I think his style of comedy really plays into that.
Mm-hmm. He can really play around with the people and the things around him, and use that to make himself a lot funnier. Definitely.
One of the quotes I really like is, since you're my guest and I'm your host, what's your pleasure? What do you like to do? And he goes, I don't know, play chess, screw. Bart's like, well, let's just play chess.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I love the part when they come across, probably my favorite gag in the whole movie is when they come across the KKK guys.
Mm-hmm.
And well, first it starts with Gene Wilder, just oh boys, but there's the "Where's the white women at" line, which we said at the beginning, which was kind of it's obviously funny, but I love the whole part with the They come up and he's still like, "Oh, I told you to wash your hands off." Cracks me up.
Something that's fun that they rarely ever bring up in any other Western movie is if you're eating chili and beans and stuff around a fire late at night, there's going to be farting with you have a wagon train full of guys. You don't
Yeah.
think that's ever going to come up, and it never comes up in a TV show or a movie, and it's hilarious that they're all just sitting around the fire farting.
Well, because it seems so silly and childish, right? But it would certainly be a reality.
Right.
Especially, honestly, back then, they probably didn't care all too much at all.
Well, poop humor has been around since the Egyptians, at least, if not before.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like one of the first recorded jokes is either about a penis or farting. It's like that's all. Everyone thinks that's just hilarious throughout history. We haven't grown any.
As much as we think that we have, we certainly have not grown up yet.
No.
You can never mature. You just become older children. It's one of the things that we were talking about a lot earlier is, well, we've never done a comedy before on one of these, and it'd be really difficult. We were wondering if to talk about comedies without just going through a list of all the funniest little lines and scenes and all that. But
Well, it's like that's the interesting thing about this is there's not like one style of comedy. There's dialogue where you have to pay attention and know, and then there's like references to like even that time period, like Hedy Lamarr, Headley Lamarr. There's jokes about racism, obviously, but not even just black. It's like Mel Brooks also plays the Indian chief.
Yeah.
And he like speaks in Yiddish, which is hilarious. Then you have I can't remember the girl's name, but she speaks in like a German accent, Madeline Kahn.
Yeah, kind of a German accent, but she's also kind of just has like a lisp.
Yeah, so it's like making fun sort of Germans, also making fun of a speech impediment, but then also making fun of the fact she's like a whore.
Oh, it's true, it's true, it's true.
And then when Mel Brooks is playing like the mayor or the governor or the councilman, is like he's cross-eyed and he's sex crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But then Headley is able to like buy them off with like paddle and balls, the little toys, and they're all happy with that. And then he's like, "I'm just going to take money." Yeah,
this damn one doesn't work.
So it's like there's so much stuff packed in, and there's physical comedy. I mean, we have Mongo that like punches horses out
or lifts them up over his head.
Yes, I mean he like his mule, or no, it's not a mule. It's a bull. He rides a bull that has like the ass of it is painted like a fucking school bus. Was saying like it's okay to pass on one side, not on the other side. And it's crazy, like the amount of stuff that's in this.
Yeah, it's a very, well, in classic Brooks style, very jam-packed to the brim with just loads of, like you said, different kind of humor. It's incredible. It's an absolute classic.
Fourth wall breaking, like more than Deadpool.
Yeah, and funnier than Deadpool too, because it's used.
Definitely, because it's specifically a comedy rather than also having to be an action movie and other things.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too. The theme song was originally commissioned, and the guy thought that it was supposed to be a serious film.
Oh,
and I like that they play a lot of the stuff that way. Like the villains are played fairly straight, but it's just like ridiculous what they're doing.
Yeah, with the exception of like Slim Pickens, I'd say, but
right. But I mean, Slim Pickens acts like Slim Pickens.
Yeah.
I love what he's like the rubber frog or whatever you can't find in the bathtub.
Yeah. It was my froggy. It's right here, sir. He brings it over and he's just like petting it. Oh, thank God, good froggy, good. And speaking of Slim Pickens, actually, it's an interesting little I guess comparison to our last film on the last episode, which of course was Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained. In that film, there's a story of how Leonardo DiCaprio was having a difficult time saying the N-word around all the other actors, but Samuel L. Jackson took him aside and said, like, this is just a normal Tuesday for us. Just go ahead and come on, just say it. You're acting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Similarly to that, I guess that Slim Pickens was having a difficult time saying the word as well, especially to Clevon Little, because he really liked him. But Little eventually took him off to the side and said, like, listen, I know you're playing a character and you don't mean any of these things and it's written in the script, so just go ahead and say it. It's kind of interesting that both of those films kind of deal with the same aspect from their antagonists.
Yeah.
But I guess what is it?
I
Just
mean, and
to
that
show how awkward that word and that whole idea still kind of is.
yeah. I mean, and that's one of the things that we could talk about too. Like, if people say, "Well, you couldn't make this film today," but I
No.
mean, in some aspects, I don't. You probably couldn't, but I mean, you couldn't do the Chappelle Show today either.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, uh, I think it's not like it was only able to be done in '74, and then any time after that you weren't able to. It's like I just think even in the last couple of years, things have changed to be a certain point. But the thing is, everything is circular. It'll come back around.
Hmm.
The people will push envelopes. I mean, it's not like South Park has been canceled,
Yeah,
and they
exactly.
always bring up ridiculous things.
And like Django Unchained and The Hateful Eight still came out. They're, I
Right.
mean, in a different context, and they're serious films, but they have a lot of not discrimination, because obviously, like, again, the argument for that movie being racist is bullshit as well.
Right.
But they're still dealing with those topics and using those words in a very time appropriate manner. Obviously, today's climate is a little bit too defensive and almost needs to be offended over everything.
Right. Because subtlety and subtext doesn't mean anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Mel Brooks was saying, "This is an issue. Let's talk about it."
Yeah,
Not saying, "I think calling someone the N word is funny, therefore I'm going to put
yeah,
it in my movie as much as possible."
no, exactly. Which is
So,
obviously is a good satire, both of the
yeah,
Western movies and the time period that they're set in's treatment of non-white people, but also of the time period, obviously the 70s, and again nowadays even we're still dealing with those kind of repercussions and people that are still acting in those discriminatory ways towards different people who, aren't different people at all.
originally Bart's name was going to be Tex X after Malcolm X.
Right. Yeah.
You think
That's
that might have
kind of
been a little
interesting.
too on the nose?
Just a little bit, yeah. And I guess the movie was called Black Bart at some point as well,
Hmm.
which I think
I
Blazing
think that would have
Saddles is
hurt.
a little, yeah. Blazing Saddles is a little bit like, that's a good, impactful name.
Right, because you kind of think like, I mean, it's all the stuff that you could picture being in a western, and it doesn't overtly sound like a joke. But if you think about it, okay, a saddle is where you put your ass, and your ass is on fire.
Yeah.
It's coming through you like a hot taco. I mean, it's hilarious that it's like it's sort of like this term that doesn't mean anything, but if you think about it for a little bit, it does sound rude.
Hmm. Or at the same time, it's almost, you could also go Blazing Saddles as setting the genre on fire, the Western genre,
Sure, of course.
in that satire route again.
Right.
It's very deep, like we were saying. All the comedy, it's got great amounts of layers to it. And we brought up Madeline Kahn's character a little earlier, Lily von Stepp. But I think it's interesting that she's only in the movie for maybe like 10 minutes, 15 minutes,
Yeah.
and she's nominated for an Oscar performance, because it's so damn funny. But it's got to be all that song, right?
Right.
Which is that was Untired, right? Now that was absolutely hilarious. And Mel Brooks says it's probably the dirtiest song he's ever written, but it's just so funny.
I say Mel Brooks in all his movies, it seems like, always has some sort of a musical number.
Yep. Well, yeah.
The producers has Springtime for Hitler.
Yeah. That's where he's.
History of the World has the Inquisition, which is fucking hilarious. I don't know if you've
Uh-huh.
never have you the
I've seen that one.
Inquisition. I mean, even Men in Tights. We're manly men. We're men in
Yeah.
tights.
Or Spaceballs, like, doesn't really have an overt one, but it has the hello my baby, hello
Right,
my...
which is fucking hilarious with William Hurt too,
Yeah.
or John Hurt. I don't know why I said William. It's
I don't know
John.
either. R.I.P.
I'm
John
an
Hurt.
idiot. Yes, except for when you were in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Hey, I
Ugh.
like that one.
Yeah, I don't
And
care.
also R.I.P. Gene Wilder as well.
Actually,
Last year.
Mel Brooks is the only person that's alive in all these movies. Is he knocking at your door?
Yeah. Hey, Mel, come on
Come
in.
and knock on our door.
But and then of course Mel Brooks would go on to adapt the producers to stage as well, the Broadway adaptation of the producers, which is obviously a Broadway adaptation, so that's full of music, while the original wasn't a full-blown musical. The new one is.
Right.
Then he was in the remake of it as well and produced that and helped write a little bit of that, but
Bleh.
at least he was involved. They didn't just like, not involve him at all. Just say, fuck you, Mel, no, we're doing this.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane.
Now
Was
the
it
two of
Nathan
them
Lane or
did it on
Oliver
Nathan
Platt?
Lane. The two of them did it on Broadway though, too.
Yeah, but that's not Gene Wilder and Zero Mostel. I'm sorry.
No. I actually thought Will Ferrell is hilarious in that movie, in the remake.
Will Ferrell is funny as the German when he's the German. That he is funny.
Yeah. I would like at least one more full-blown Mel Brooks film before, he inevitably.
I know. That's the like I would like another Zucker Abrams film.
Yeah.
But I just
it's not
don't
going to
think
happen.
it's
As
big.
much as they say Spaceballs 3 or whatever is in the works, Spaceballs 3
I
and
think
Search for
he's too
Spaceballs
old.
2. Yeah. Well, I don't know if we'll ever get that. I'm sure Bill Pullman would be in, but obviously you can't do that without John Candy.
Yeah.
Who would you
Well,
get
Joan
to replace
Rivers
him?
won't be in it.
Oh, yeah.
Who would I
that
get
too.
to replace instead of John Candy?
No, you
I
can't.
mean, they'd probably get like Jack
Seth
Black.
Rogen. Oh, see,
Oh.
Jack Black would be a good one. You just call him like his son or something dumb.
Yeah, you'd have to.
Yeah.
Call him Puke.
Because he's a little puke. Hey.
Yeah, well, barf.
Unless you just replace him with a bunch of people, Puke
But
and
this isn't.
Yak and.
It's not the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. We're not replacing Heath Ledger.
We're not replacing. We're just saying that he had a litter of puppies, and all of them were named after throwing up.
That would be interesting.
And you just get a bunch of hilarious fat people.
Well, you could get Mike Myers in a fat suit.
I'm bigger than you and I'm higher on the food chain.
So, for the ending of the film, do you think Mel Brooks and everybody just ran out of ideas, or do you think that was like a really interesting way to end it? What do you think about the end?
I think it's interesting. That's for sure. And how it kind of goes off the rails completely. It's the ultimate fourth wall break, if you will.
Mm-hmm. They literally break walls. Yeah.
Yeah. Smashing through walls and going into other films. And there's that hilarious Dom DeLuise cameo.
Yes.
It's certainly something. And, when I watched this a while back again, it got me thinking, and I was trying to think on the ending before we casted on it. And it's still one of those endings that just perplexes me. And I don't really understand fully what it is, which I think is kind of interesting for a comedy like this to have that it's an absurdist comedy in a lot of ways, but it's really absurd ending even for its own standards. And I think that it almost gets like surreal at times in what's going on, which is kind of just, I don't know. I don't think the film really could have ended any other way and then still have maintained that hilarity. Like we could have had just the fight and then, we did it, the end, we saved the day. But I think that as the film ramps up towards the end and gets closer and closer to the climax, and then it just goes completely off the rails, it amplifies absolutely everything that came before it, almost. And, it gets that ambiguity going again, because they come out of the screen, they're buying tickets for the ending of Blazing Saddles, or whatever. They go in and sit down to watch the ending of Blazing Saddles, and then the ending happens, but, like, Gene Wilder's in the movie eating popcorn. It's just really interesting.
And Hadley's like trying to leave out of the studio parking lot and everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think about it, bitch?
Yeah, no, I think it's very Looney Tunes esque in the fact that like it just keeps ramping up to where it breaks its entire continuity or whatever. And but if you want to take an analytical approach to it, you could almost say that Mel Brooks was saying like this is an issue that's greater or breaks out of the realm
Right.
of movies and the Wild West, and it's something that we actually have to deal with, and maybe we should talk about.
In our time, yeah. That's a
Yeah.
very interesting argument for that, actually. We have to look beyond the screen.
Yeah.
And these issues break through the screen and come to our real life, and that's what we should be using for it. That's what we should be using movies for, is to express these ideas and to attack these ideals that some crazy people had and still have. It's an eerily similar ending I found to Monty Python and the Holy Grail,
Right.
which that one doesn't deal as much with the whole cinema aspect. It's rather just a literal cop-out.
Because it's the documentarian that gets sliced in the throat with a sword.
And maybe that's got to be a film that we do at some point on the drive-in. That's I think Monty Python itself is a good topic for another day. But interestingly enough, that movie came out 2 years or 1 year after Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
Which I know when I was watching it, I had seen Holy Grail first, and I had remarked to you that, of course, the ending is very much like the Holy Grail. Then I found out that it came afterwards, so I can't help but wonder if they were just a little bit influenced by Blazing Saddles, at least enough to say that when they ran out of money, we can have it still be funny.
Right. Maybe one of the llamas told them about it.
Yeah, probably.
Rape, murder, arson, and rape. You said rape twice. I like rape.
There's so many good lines throughout it. Man, we could just go back and forth naming them all. But we're not gonna do that. I guess we didn't ask off the top, but obviously we're very experienced with the films of Mel Brooks. But what is your experience with the films of Mel Brooks?
I mean, most of his classic ones came out before I was born.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Spaceballs may have been the first one I was actually acquainted with, like when it came out to video. And I think the first one I saw at the theater probably was Men in Tights.
Right.
And I think that might have been the last one I saw at the theater too. I think I've only seen one Mel Brooks movie at the theater.
And I know you just absolutely hate them, so.
Yeah. No, I mean, I bought that box set on Blu-ray that has all his films.
Just so you could smash it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think History of the World is great. Doesn't get enough love.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just about all of his movies, kind of like in this era, were really fantastic that he directed. There are a couple of his movies that I don't absolutely love, but I wouldn't say like out of all of his films that he's directed that I hate any of them.
Right. Would you say that you could name a favorite, or would it be History of the World, you think?
Young Frankenstein probably is my favorite.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I think it's probably because it's more like classic Hollywood horror trope.
Yeah.
It's like Blazing Saddles, I think, is a really fine Western comedy, but like I wouldn't put it up there as like my top Western. And Robin Hood Men in Tights might be like one of my favorite Robin Hood movies. but
really?
Like adventure movies
that's a big one because there's like 400 trillion of them.
Yeah, well, I like the Errol Flynn Adventures of Robin Hood, which is where like everybody knows basically where it comes from. But it's kind of like Young Frankenstein to me is the best Frankenstein movie.
Yeah, well, it's because it takes all the ideas of Frankenstein and the absurdities of the story that I think a lot of people pass over.
Yeah,
and really like expand upon them and make them even more absurd than they already were.
And I think it's like every character in that's perfect for their role.
Mm-hmm. And that was actually a Gene Wilder idea, that movie.
Mm-hmm. And made the same year, released the same year as Blazing Saddles too.
Yeah,
that was an amazing year for him.
Yeah, exactly. For both Mel Brooks and for Gene Wilder. And I believe Young Frankenstein is Mel Brooks' highest rated movie on IMDb, but I might be wrong.
I mean, that sounds right.
No, I'm right. Okay. I'm always right.
Well, good. Glad we know. And 6 years after this, he would produce The Elephant Man for David Lynch.
Wow, you just have to do it every single time. You just have to. You just have to bring David Lynch into this podcast. Every single film we do, it doesn't matter what it is, what we're talking about. We could be talking about Toy Story 3, and you'll just bring in a David Lynch connection somehow for some reason, just so you could say his name, just so you could feel the words and the syllables roll off of your tongue, just so you could, just because you like him. That's why.
One day we'll find it. The David Lynch connection.
I'm trying to get another line. Who produced that one? You bastard. Not gonna respond to me now when I ask you a question.
I didn't hear your question because you faded out.
Mel Brooks was an executive producer on that. I actually didn't know that. I had to go and check.
Oh.
Well, because it's executive producer uncredited.
Well, because he didn't want his name on the credits of the film when it was released so that everyone would think it was a comedy.
Okay. Wow. That's really cool, actually.
But on the
Today
special features, on the special features of the Elephant Man Studio Canal Blu-ray, there's like an interview with Mel Brooks, and he talks about like how impressed he was with Lynch and Eraserhead, and
cool.
He wanted to help him make a movie, and they try to do something more Hollywood-esque for him, but he still brought all the darkness and creativity with him. So
yeah, The Elephant Man is a fantastic film.
Yes,
it's almost a perfect blend of Lynch's surrealism and a more like you said, a more Hollywood approach.
Mm-hmm.
Other than the straight story, it's obviously his most accessible film.
Right.
Best Picture nominee.
Disney would produce that.
Mm-hmm. But this isn't the David Lynch podcast as much as it always ends up being. That's just because we love him.
It's the Mongo podcast. Mongogram.
Mongo. It's the best one when they just tie him to the jail cell. They just pops off.
Morons.
That line has to be improvised.
Yeah, the morons part was. Yep. You could even see Clevon little break.
Yeah, I know. That's why it has to be, because he just destroys them. He laughs and they laugh and they go off screen. It's like No, I love absurdist humor.
Well, that's why you like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
That's true. And why I like Rick and Morty and all that.
Whatever.
All
those shows are terrible.
And Scott Pilgrim. It's a good one. I'm just going through everything that's tagged as absurdist humor on IMDb now. Airplane.
Scott Pilgrim's not absurdist.
No, it has some absurd elements. Obviously, like Police Academy and Men in Tights, like you were saying, and Holy Grail, and there's a bunch of TV shows in here. Chappelle's Show is hilarious. Flight of the Conchords is hilarious. Oh, look, Freddy got fingered.
That's not absurdist humor. That's just bad humor.
Daddy, would you like some sausages?
Proud.
My gosh. Well, you got anything else for Blazing?
Land, sea snatch. Land snatching. Here it is.
What are you talking about? Land snatching? You're gonna snatch my land? Ew. It sounded gross when it came out of my mouth. Well, you wanna wrap her up then? What do you think? Got anything else on it, Blazing Saddles? Have any other favorite gags you want to highlight?
I think it's great. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. And if you haven't seen it, why the fuck are you listening?
I think that it's an absolute classic comedy, like we were talking about. And again, I think it's still as relevant right now as it was back then. Obviously, a little bit less because there's less westerns nowadays than there were back then. But it's a good movie. And if you're offended by it, you're missing the fucking point. So.
And the lovely thing about physical media is you can see it exactly how it was originally intended. It's not edited for content. It's not edited for time.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly how it was made.
Could you imagine watching an edited version of this?
Yeah, they have it once on
probably
Comedy Central or something like that.
Everything, all of it would just be removed though, except for the farting scene.
I think the farting scene was gone too. I think they just cut that whole thing out.
Really? They might as well just not cut the movie. They just played the opening song and then the credits.
And I do think that it was actually fairly short.
And that would be hilarious. Actually, just play the opening song and then the credits. It seems like a very Mel Brooksy thing to do. It'd be called like short movie, a short film. Well, in that case, should we talk about what's coming up next for this thing? Because we haven't done one of these in a little while. What do we got cooking in the pipeline, Garrett Donardo?
Do we want to commit to anything?
I commit to nothing except for the next episode.
All right. How romantic.
It's true. I hate to break it to you, but you're sucking on my elbow.
How about some more beans, Mr. Taggart?
I wish they kept that line in.
I know, that's hilarious.
That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Like that line is so funny. Damn it. If they kept that in, oh man. But it's funny as is, but I hate to break it to you. Up next on the Digital Drive-In, I don't know what day it is today on release date, Garrett, before you pull that joke on me. Beat you to the punch.
I was waiting.
But
well, if this one comes out before the other one, what if the other one comes out first?
It should.
Okay, so then we don't know what we're doing after this.
On the weekend. Yeah, the next episode should be up on Christmas or Christmas Eve, one of the others, because I know all our faithful listeners are going to be busy on. We're going to be talking about the greatest Christmas film of all time, a classic,
Home
an
Alone?
absolute, nope, but we're not going to say it.
A Charlie Brown Christmas?
We're not going to say what it is. We're just saying that you should know what it is.
A Christmas Story.
There are a lot of Christmas movies, aren't there? It's Ron Howard's The Grinch.
The Santa Claus.
Miracle
on 34th Street.
Jack Frost.
Jack Frost, the horror movie about the snowman? That's fucking awesome. Love that movie.
No.
Damn.
The Santa Claus 3, Jack Frost Revenge or whatever it's called with Martin Short as Jack Frost.
No.
Most exciting and riveting film of the last decade. So tune in on Christmas as we talk about the greatest Christmas movie of all time. And you know what they say? It ain't Christmas until Hans Gruber falls off the Nakatomi Plaza.
Well, that just gave it away.
Yeah, you're right. Did it.
You think anyone from Canada's Finest will listen to this?
No.
Okay.
I don't know any of them. I know about 5 of them. And the rest are simple folk. Morons. Well, thanks for listening. If you're out there, everybody, you could always find us here at the Digital Drive-In every single week. Talk about our favorite movies and what we love about them and what makes them so damn great. You can find both of us on Twitter, me at Alex's Reviews and Garrett at Garrett Donardo, because he's boring as shit. You can also follow the Digital Drive-In at digital_podcast. And until next time, we'll see you on the flip-flop. On the knick-knack paddywhack. Give a dog a bone. This old man is going home.